Started. All right. So before we get started, I want to quickly go over today's agenda and give you guys some quick little announcements. We'll be starting with some quick introductions of our panelists, and then I'll hand it over to our panelists to give us a little lecture and demo, and then we will end today's workshop off with a Q&A session where you guys can ask them any questions. We do request that everyone stay muted during the workshop, ask any questions if it's if it's anything pressing, ask your questions in the chat. If not, stay until the end and then ask your questions during our Q&A session. And if you wait till the end, you may or may not get a live performance from our panelists, so stay tuned for that. So now let's meet our panelists. First, we have Arun. Arun Venugopal is one of the former vocal percussionists for the Northeasters and graduated with the class of 2020 of Northeastern University. With the Northeasters, he won multiple competitions in national and international circuits, toured the US, the UK, and Hong Kong, and recorded numerous awarded studio albums and live shows. He also held the roles of president, assistant music director, and webmaster during his 5 years in the group. He's excited to return to the a cappella scene and talk about beatboxing today. Next, we have Ishaan. He is an avid saxophone player and shower singer since 4th grade, and also has the vocal percussionist for UCLA Naya Zamana from fall 2017 until his graduation this past spring of 2021. In his time with Naya Zamana, Ishaan helped his team record and publish their first ever album, Gia, and has won individual awards for Outstanding Vocal Percussionist at UCSB Mayfield, UC Berkeley Anahat, and All-American Awards. And finally, we have CJ. CJ is a beatboxer from the University of Miami's premier South Asian fusion a cappella team, U Miami Tufan. CJ graduated in 2021 with a BS in Computer Science, Psychology, and Marine Science. During his collegiate career, he performed with Tufan as a bass and a beatboxer and won multiple awards for outstanding vocal percussion from 2017 to 2020. In 2019, U Miami Tufan saw an amazing year taking home the national championship title at All-American Awards, and CJ began his journey in music on Broadway as a child actor. So before we jump into the rest of the workshop, I just wanted to ask our panelists a really quick question. How did you guys learn about beatboxing and how do you guys get into it?
I could take this one first if you would like. All right, awesome. So how do we learn about beatboxing? I think the first time I was ever exposed to beatboxing was when I was in high school. It was a seminar kind of similar to this workshop, but in a physical setting. We were in the auditorium and this dude came and he was like, yo, I do a cappella in college. This is really cool. So he was able to perform with his team and show all of us what they had. And he introduced this thing called beatboxing, and it absolutely blew my mind. He started making sounds with his mouth that I didn't know were possible. And that's probably the first time I was ever exposed to beatboxing ever in my life, for sure.
Hey guys, I am Arun. Glad to see y'all. Happy New Year. I got into beatboxing I did it in high school, in my senior year of high school, and I was only in it in my senior year of high school because I was in the jazz choir that was before it, but then the teacher that we had, our chorus teacher, retired at the end of my junior year. And so the new teacher made jazz choir into an a cappella group. No one else could go, and so I did that. And I had the most basic, untrained beatboxing for a year. I hated it. I really wanted to sing more. I was like, I don't want to do this. I want my jazz choir back. But I ended up actually doing a competition with this group, and we went to like a regional thing. I'm from Boston, I'm from Massachusetts, and so we were doing a regional thing, and when we saw these other high school groups, we were like, oh my God, there's actual a cappella. What is this? And then we saw this college group hosting this performance. And so this college group was insane. I mean, we saw them go up and we were like, oh, like they have to have some backing track or something. Like, where's their drummer? Where's their like bassist? Like, what's this nonsense, right? And then we met their beatboxer and their bassist and everything after, and that group happened to be the Nor'easters. And so when I went to Northeastern, I happened to introduce myself to their beatboxer, and he had just graduated that year, and he took me on as his student, I guess. And yeah, since then I've been the beatboxer. So it was 5 years of a Desi beatboxer before me, and then 5 years with me. So it was a 5-year program. So we spent all our time doing a cappella. So that was that's how I got into it. Bijol, yes. Yes, someone knows Bijol. Let's get some respect on Bijol's name, the OG. All right.
All right, what's up, everybody? My name is Ishan. I started learning about beatboxing. I mean, the first time I heard about it was when I was in third grade because one of my older cousins was actually a beatboxer, and so he first showed me it, and I thought it was really cool from then. But I didn't ever actually explore it until like high school. Funny story is I was actually going through a breakup at the time, and I needed a way to distract myself. So I had like tons of free time, so I just started beatboxing and trying to pick up stuff. I remember I used to listen to Pen Masala and like all the Desi teams like on loop, Nor'easters too, everything. And it was honestly so inspiring for me to listen to that. And then I actually started getting into like beatboxing on its own as an art form, and started listening to tons of YouTube videos there, which we'll give you some resources too at the end. But yeah, I just started listening to a lot of beatboxing stuff, and I was honestly just so amazed that the human body could create such atrocities. And I was like, that's amazing, and I want to do that. So yeah.
Wow, thank you guys all for giving us like a little bit of a background about how you guys got into it, because I mean, no one naturally just like it's like, oh, let me beatbox today, and like I can't. I mean, all I know is boots and cats, but I'm not even good at that. But yeah, thank you guys, and now we will start with our demo and lecture, starting with Arun, and take it away, guys.
Sweet, thank you. All right, I'm gonna simultaneously move my screen around and introduce the basic parts to a drum, introduction to beat notation, the 4-category chart, time signatures, and breath exercises. So when I learned how to beatbox from Bijol, it was very much felt like a system. And so this is, we don't have a really good name for it, but we can call it the Bijol Khatri School of Vocal Percussion. And so this is the technique that I learned. This is stuff that I've taught at workshops before. It's stuff that I've taught to students of mine in the past, and they've gone on to do high school and collegiate a cappella. So this has been something that has been my driving learning and teaching and application strategy of beatboxing. Later, we're going to talk about learning by ear, which I think works well with learning by technique. But we're starting with this because I find a lot of value with some of the stuff here that you can then apply visually later. So let's dive into the basic parts of a drum. First things first is that beatboxing is all muscles in your face. So yeah, it's going to be hard to do at first, but don't give up because it's all new muscles. And the thing that I kept reminding myself was if I'm working on a really hard sound, it's just meaning that I'm working out that muscle and it's gonna take some time. And some of the most satisfying sounds I've learned, the BMG snare, a hiccup type sound, they took literally all 5 years of me in the group to do it. So there are things that if you keep working at it, you'll get it. And like, it's just that muscle. And once that you unlock it, you're great to go. But let's start with the things that we can get really easily. The first thing is your kick drum. There's some descriptions here, but your kick drum, it's that B in boots and cats, you know? We talk about boots and cats, and yes, it's a real thing. So B in boots, we can separate the B from the oot that you speak, because you've got boot, oot, oot. Can I have all y'all listening? I don't want to see any closed faces. And I see every person behind the screen. Yeah, I can see you. I see through your name on Zoom, and I know you're not beatboxing with me. You're going to change that now. We're going to beatbox together. Let's do this. This boot. Let's go boot. Just say the word boot with me. Boot, 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 boot. You feel that B sound, right? Now let's separate it. Oot, 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 oot. So you've got this B sound, and that is what we call a plosive. The plosive is explosive, and so we want to make that be super explosive. So what we do is we build up pressure behind the lips. You're gonna go, yeah, no sound, just literally building up pressure. And then you're gonna release it. I'm waiting to see you do this. You see me doing this with my hand? I'm gonna tell you right now, the more that you physicalize beatboxing now in the learning stages, the better you are gonna be when you get on stage. So feel the motion of that sound through your body and your expressiveness with it, because then you'll make that sound expressive. Let's try it again. And so we throw that sound a little bit forward and it comes out of our lips like this. Now, to make it really big, this is the interesting part, right? This is where we start working out our muscles. And so after some time, you're gonna need to start massaging out your jaw and your cheeks. So let's start with that together. Go ahead, massage your cheeks right here, right where your jaw meets the corners, where the pivot point is, and just release that jaw nice and low. And really be ridiculous. Just completely change your face as you move your lips around to completely relax your jaw. And it's gonna feel great. And then you're gonna go wet your lips. I'm not gonna show you that, so you just wet your lips on your own. And then let's try it again. We get that repetition, we start feeling it, and it starts sitting a little bit more. Now, summarizing the basic kick, you're gonna make the boot sound, make it explosive by separating it from the vocals, and then build up that pressure. The pressure is the biggest part of your kick drum, and there's some ways you can make it punchier, and that way is how you approach the space that your lip creates. So when your lips come together to say boot, it's pretty flat. If you feel that right now and you say boot, your lips are pretty flat. Now I want you to try to say F or V. Feel that specific point of contact, all right? You're saying F or V. Feel that point of contact where your lips are making that sound. Now, tighten your lips, build up pressure. Tighten your lips, build up pressure. So what we see is a difference between and a little bit punchier, and it gives you a little bit more to work with as you learn and build your diaphragm. Your snares, or sorry, your hi-hats. Let's talk about the TS and cats. It's quite literally you're saying TS. You're making it punchier though by placing the tongue on the roof of your mouth. So when you say, instead of saying go, it takes a lot of effort, but it'll give it a really nice, clean, crisp hi-hat. This. And then with this S, we lower our jaw slightly. We can go. So there's a difference between and. That's a very punchy, it's a very forward hi-hat. You might use it in hip hop music. Right? It's a really forward kind of trap sound and hi-hat. But if you want to make it more real, like the literal hi-hat you see on your screen, take a look at that picture. You see those two little discs? That's the hi-hat ringing with each other. Now, an interesting thing about a hi-hat is you get this vibration, not just on a single thing, but it's going back and forth with each other. So we can make that replicated by doing that with our lips. Keep it really thin in between them when you're saying tss, and just go. So the difference is between an open sound and a very thin. Different songs will call for different feels. We'll get to that in a second. The snares, let me just say I love a good snare, man. Like the snares, they're the most important part of your kit. And I'm gonna live and die by that statement. If you are doing a live show with no microphone, you need to prioritize these bad boys because they're gonna be the thing that settles your rhythm. They're the thing that really holds down the fort. When you are doing a snare, you're gonna be emphasizing usually 2 and 4, and that is the most audible part because the snare is high pitched, and so it'll carry over some distance. So we wanna really practice our snares and get that strong. Thank you, CJ and Ishan for hopping in the chat and for everyone adding the questions. Yes, I am breathing out on my hi-hats. There are some breathing in sounds. We'll get to those in a second. Our snares, cats. We have a little catch in the back of our throat. When you say cat, go ahead and say cat, cats, 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 cats. It's the separated k at. And I believe it's not a C. I call it a K. So if you're mad about the fact that I changed the K, changed it to K from C, don't talk to me about it. I believe firmly in my heart that this is a K sound. And so that mechanism that catches the K, that's what you want to emphasize, right? You want to feel that at, cat, at. Now, let's isolate that. It is right here. It's right in your throat. And let me tell you, I spent 6 months doing that. It works, but you're going to dry out your mouth in half a song. So the way you're going to make it sustainable is breathing out through it, allowing that breath not to just be like, but a shaped sound. Something like, where I'm going, and if I change the shape of my mouth, I'll get different sounds. Another way you might do this is like KSH. If you're feeling like you can't really isolate your breath, try practicing on a KSH, and then you can start finding how that breath leaves your mouth. Open your mouth from the KSH to like a KOH. So the shape of the breath is actually the meat of the sound, but that catch is super important. Okay, so that's the basic sounds. So now you know what we need to know to talk about the thing that defines my technique, Beatles technique, the stuff that I learned by, which is beat notation. In beat notation, we have dots that represent beats in a measure. So if I have 4 beats in a measure in 4/4, I go dot, 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 and then I'll have some dashes in between to subdivide. Let me give you an example here. Simple 4/4, boots and cats. Each beat lands on the dot. We got the snares and the kicks on the dots. And if you'll notice, those hi-hats are on the 8th notes in between. So those dashes, the horizontal dashes are the 8th notes. The vertical ones are the 16th notes. That really helps me keep it like, really intentional, because we're going to want to really make complicated fills once we get faster at this, right? So if we subdivide now and we have this sort of system for mapping out what we want to see, then we're going to have a really much easier time when we're learning harder stuff. That being said, this is your shorthand, just as much as this is my shorthand. You're going to see a few examples later of Nor'easter songs that I did that you can also find on YouTube. And it is the beatboxing lines I wrote for them. And it's not as neat as this. Let's just put it that way. If you are scribbling it with just the dots, that's fine. If that works for you, make it work for you, because you're going to want to use this as a quick guide. You're in rehearsal, you're just peeking down at it and you're saying, oh, in this section, I was thinking of doing this beat. Let me read that off here real quick. And then you do it and you're like, I don't really like how that sounded. Let me erase it and change it. And then you have it tracked and you're keeping up with the changes. You might not make the same mistake again because you've already run through it. Following beat notation is valuable because it's a reference tool in rehearsal. It's a guide for your substitute VPs. I'll tell you about a time when I went to Hong Kong. Long story short, missed the first stadium show. And we were doing 2 nights and I was in there 5 days. The group was there longer. And the first show I missed. The second show, I was there, but the first show needed to be covered by our bass. And so he was literally looking at my notebook, just reading these songs, these like 8-9 songs, and just trying to understand the structure to it, because he can see he doesn't need to know all the details, but he knows, okay, there's a heavy rhythm here, there's nothing here. And I've got little notes and annotations in there and jokes for myself that I write in through all the songs. And so you can look at that and say, oh, I understand the energy here. I understand what's going on. And so it just provides substitute VPs a little bit of help. It allows you to visualize time and space. You want to be able to take advantage of every moment in your set. You want to take advantage of every moment that you're performing. So being able to see that in front of you really allows you to free up your mind in the performance, because then you can focus on that meaning. And with connecting with your group members, you can look at them, feed off their energy, give them energy, so on. So beat notation leads us to the sounds. So we've got 4 categories, 4 big categories of sounds. CJ, Ishaan, I'm going to ask you to hop in a little bit. So I'm just going to run through the ones that I put up here. For everyone at home, there's a lot of really difficult sounds in this list. There's a lot of advanced, intermediate, beginner sounds. I put everything in my notebook on here. I just figured if this is going to be a resource you keep, have it all. And so what you can do is you can write all of these down if you want, but don't stress about the ones later in the list. Start at the top, be isolated, focus on the ones that are important, and get your basic kit strong. The most important thing that I'm going to tell you right now is you need 3 sounds: boots, cats, and ts. And then you're good. Because once you've got that, there are other ways to make that interesting. Don't rely on your sounds to make it interesting. Rely on all of the other things that will bring your song to life. That being said, we love some good sounds as beatboxers, and we always want new good sounds, and we want to sound cooler, and we want better sounds, and honestly, it's just really fun. So screw all that, good nonsense. We want to have fun. Let's talk about some kicks, snares, hi-hats, and the miscellaneous. I have a list of kick drums that I notate as the letter B. We got or the 2 variations I mentioned before. There's BF, where I breathe out on an F. If you want to emulate a 1980s kick drum, you might be able to use that F somewhere. BV, if you want to add a little weight, I'm actually adding a little vocalization behind it. It's really good for a drop. If you're going into something like a little bit heavier of a section. BFR, if you control your R's, join me in on this one. FR is like a, go ahead, go with me. All you people that are like, no, I can't control my R's, try it, do it, stop hating. Yeah, so this BFR, we're gonna want to add this kick in front of it. Again, make it explosive. Alternate. Take away the F, keep the R. So those are 2 ways that you can introduce some variations into your phrases. I use those so much. So yeah, have fun with those. BG, it's like a growl, like you're Batman today. Or there was a song we did in 2013 before my time. Bijal did it. It was a drumming song. So that is this Florence and the Machines. Hey, Shams, is this Florence and the Machines aesthetic type heavy? I love that sound. BVZ, you do the V, you do a Z. It's a little punchy. It's a little electronic. BH is a heartbeat sound. I actually do it from my throat. I go. I'm trying to get the light on me. And so that sound is really cool for a heartbeat section if you're just trying to keep it chill or creepy or whatever. It's like, or as a friend once called it, Elliot, he once said it's simulated arrhythmia. BT, the tabla, we got. This is my imitation because I don't know South Asian songs. I was in the Nor'easters. We didn't do that. So the best I could do is emulate some of the feel to some of them. So a lot of the South Asian songs that you guys do, or the mashups that you have, or the feels that you're trying to get, these Western sounds may not match up completely, and this Westernized tabla might not either. But it was how I was able to connect it a little bit, so that's why I'm sharing it. It's like the gentrified version of the tabla here. So we got, and it's just the little, and like I said, we just do it for fun, right? The tilde, the B tilde with that squiggly line. I usually do a little squiggly line if I'm trying to do throat bass and I want to actually map out, is my throat bass going to go up in pitch or down in pitch? I have a running joke. I have one good throat bass every day, and I used it up today already. I'm really sorry. So I'm going to let the others do throat bass. They'll show you what it sounds like. But for throat bass, when we talk about that, that's what that tilde is. Snares, we got 3 families of snares. K family, click family, and the P family. It's a great neighborhood up here. The K family is the cat. We've got cats. They run the block. And so cats are the most basic thing you should be working with. You should really run with this family as much as you can because you're going to get a lot out of them, especially when we talk about some of the later arranging tips. So the K sound, KSH, KOH, it's just as it's written. For me, it looks like. So I think of them quite literally as how I've written them. So it just makes it easier for me to think, oh, if I want to make a very hollow snare, I'm going to go. But if I want to make it kind of, I don't have a good image at the moment, but pretend I do. And then there's other sounds, like the inward breath. If you have a moment where you need to breathe, then you could do a breath in. Just make sure you get that catch. For me, I always dry out my throat when I do inward breaths on K snares, but it does sound decent if you have a good catch. I don't really have a good catch in my throat, so like this is what it sounds like. I told you, it's underwhelming. And then the knock sound, all right? So this is just like a, your tongue's on the roof of your mouth. Have fun with that. There's also like the other version where you're just like double clicking your tongue. I don't have a name for that, but I don't use that though. Click family, I love this the most. KL is a click sound that if you're trying to find where the click originates, there's a few different ways it was described to me. The first way was, it's like you're imitating a duck, like. Do that at home. I'm seeing, I know. I told you to do it with me. Let's go, Daffy Duck. So now you're trying, right? At least you're thinking, where is hit it? It's hidden right here. It's in the sides of your mouth. So what you're gonna do is like you're going, what's up? Yeah, click snare. That is what you're doing, but you're doing it on one side. Instead of one side, you're doing it on both. So you're instead of going, you're going, oh yeah, wait a second, that's different. Let's try that again. Go back. Let's go back to that first one. Do it with me. Now, let's try doing it at the same time. This is really hard. This took me a while, but let's try both times. Feel where your lip has, or where your tongue is like meeting the side of your mouth. Feel that spot. Align your tongue to match that point. And now try and release it. Try releasing it by opening your jaw. It's one of those sounds that once you really isolate these two sides, the combination becomes easier. So I leave you with that, and I'm gonna go on with the variations, but just remember, start with one side, start with one on each side, and then go from there. The next sound that I have here is what? KLA. This is where I do that click sound and I breathe out on it. Writings on the Wall was one of the songs that I did with this. Yeah, Rishikesh. So it is so hard. That was a hard sound for me to do, man. It took so long. Keep it up though, because like it's gonna, once you get it, it'll make sense. It will make sense. The KLA sound, once you get that click, you breathe out, you can get a, it's nice reverby. Yeah, make some vibes up in here. The other versions breathe in on that. Notice, same mechanism, very different sound. So you want to not interchange those if you're trying to be discreet. But if you're really going from one section to another and you want a change in a type of feel, that's a really easy switch to make because you're going from breathing out to breathing in. Again, breathing through that sound is hard because you're gonna end up choking on your breath in front of people. Like, it's gonna happen, and it's all right because they're gonna see it, you're gonna laugh it off, you're gonna do better next time. Click families are great, but the real heavy hitters of the snare block, of the snare neighborhood of families were the P family of snares. And the first one that I learned, which I think is the hardest one to learn, but because I learned it first, I'm gonna make everyone else learn it first, is the PF sound. And the PF sound, I'm starting with it first because I think it's valuable to think about it this way. Everyone take a second. Just imagine what you think PF is gonna sound in your mouth. Shake off that Zoom fatigue. I've been there. I teach 8th graders and I did this for a whole year in virtual school. I know how this shit sucks. So refresh and bring it back with me. We got a PF sound. I'm doing this for myself as well. PF is going like a poof, 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 poof. You're doing a P sound and an F sound. Right? But I don't like it that way. I like thinking of it as P-I-F-F. Think of saying piff. Piff, 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 piff. I'm looking at piff in the eye, literally the eye, and I'm taking the I out of piff. I take the F and I take the P and I pull them closer together and I go P-F, piff, piff, piff. And then we've got a PF sound. That's one way I learned it. The other way was the very technical description where your lips are coming together, building pressure, and then you shape your mouth in the F sound. It might start sounding a little bit like a kick drum like I just did. CJ. So what you want to do is make sure that your P sound is pretty light. For me, I try to spread my lips a little bit more. We get a wider lip placement for this instead of the more tight in this, I don't know, y-axis direction of my lips, a little more tight BF sound, which is a that's how that sound differs. If you want to know the science behind it, we can talk another day, but it basically comes down to how your mouth is being shaped. So we want to shape our mouth to get that resonation well. PF is one side of a scale. I love that P family because there's like a scale that goes from PF to PSH. PSH is a lot easier. If you just struggled with PF, raise your hands and party with me because, oh yeah, I did too. PSH is, and that sound is super important. And I'm gonna pause for a second because I think the PSH sound is a very easy sound. It is not something that you have to close your lips. It's not something that you have any crazy throat placement. It is quite truly. And a way to get it really good is to imagine you're telling someone to shut up. You go really short, really loud, really tightly placed SH, and you go. And when you combine that with that P sound, you get something that's punchy. You don't just get a sort of decay like a wash that you get with an SH, but you get this. And notice I'm really clenching for that. So even though it's an open sound, we want it to be punchy. And we want to work on our punchiness right now. So as you're working with me, because I know y'all are working with me right now, as you're working on it, you're making it punchier. We're going. And so that PSH sound, that is the best sound to practice if you want to get a punchier kit because it's so easy because you're making the plosive punchier, you're making your breath punchier. Both of those are translatable skills to other sounds. So when I say the P family is really important, I mean the PSH is super important for your development as a beatboxer. So the thing is, PSH is not the end of the game. The ideal snare in the P family, at least for me, lies right in the middle. In that little scale between PF and PSH, there lies PFSH. And it's a nice little scale that you can slide up and down across. Like you can do different snares along that P family scale at different times, or you can evolve a snare over time, or you can use different snares in different sections, but you're using the same technique and just applying it. And this PFSH combines that warmth of the PF with the sharpness of the and we end up with the love child. In context, we might hear notice how all of those have their own feel. And it comes from that explosiveness and it comes from the shape that you make in your mouth. So really, really feel that. I'm going to move quickly through the last two. They're not as important as those three. We have PFR and PS. PFR is that trilled sound we talked about, but you're combining it with the P snare. And the PS is like a crash cymbal. You could actually use that as a crash cymbal substitute. You could use it as an open hi-hat on top of a snare. It's got multiple values. If you want to layer your vocal percussion, make it sound like you're doing two lines at once, you can try that sound because you can go. It's one thing you can just kind of throw in. It's a nice little thing for a swing sort of set if you're doing it at any point. Hi-hats are much easier than our snares because there's like four. There's the T, TS, T on an inward breath. I didn't even do it. it's something that I don't really think about consciously. It's something that, like, if I'm going to breathe on an inward hi-hat, like, I'm not going to notate it. But if it's a very important section of a song where I know I'm not going to have enough breath later, then I'll notate it. I'm just pointing that out now because a lot of my hi-hats are actually inward. And this is where I sneak my breath in mostly. When I'm beatboxing, it's either in those pauses or it's on the hi-hats where I'm actually like sneaky doing an S and breathing in on that instead of a hi-hat. And I'm going like, if the pattern was right after the kick, I snuck in a breath. And so that is, we'll play into arranging in a second, but that inward breath doesn't really have to be a hi-hat. It can just be a breath if it's in that fast section, and it'll function the same. The last one was I was trying to do this on the slides, but it wasn't formatting right. It's supposed to be a T with just a dot on top. I'm classically trained in violin, and I actually learned music from playing violin and being in orchestra and in choir. And I love sheet music, and I still follow sheet music sort of tendencies. So I actually use staccatos. Sometimes I'll use tenuto markings, but that just tells me to do a really short hi-hat. Orchestra squad. And finally, the miscellaneous category, folks. I'm gonna tell you, the love I have for that first sound. Can I give you a love story, folks? Can I tell you how much I love the CH sound? There was a day where I saw the CH sound with my own eyes, and this CH sound, let me tell you, when I saw this sound look at me, it said, I can do anything you want me to. And I said, what did you say? And this sound said, I can do anything you want me to. And I said, prove it. And it said, yeah, put me in as a kick. I said, all right. All right, not bad. I said it could do anything, though. Try it as a snare. Screw you, I can be a hi-hat too. This sound, people, I love the CH sound. It goes everywhere. Use that sound for everything. Oh my God, it is the easiest one. I feel like I'm saying that a lot, but CH, truly, chicken, child, you know how to do this sound. So this sound can fit in anywhere. Use it as a way to exchange your hi-hats, to exchange your snares, to soften up a section where you don't want to change the rhythm, but you want a softer kick drum, to fill in a section where you're building. You go from boots and cats to it's a really heavy boots and cats. It's the same rhythm, it's just heavy sounds. CH is the GOAT. SH is a whoosh. I use this to make ambient sounds. It's really just, there's fun stuff you can do with it. We're not gonna worry about it. The VR sound is like a, and I usually do it like if I'm doing a drop, you know, you're trying to go into a section, you're trying to be like, oh, I'm gonna fucking drop the bass, bro. Exactly. It is the technique is still the FR. You're still doing the FR or VR, and kind of pitching it up. Yeah, that's a fun one. Cymbals I just mentioned. I didn't have any cymbals for that because I didn't have any symbols for the cymbals because I just mark it as a PS. Advanced sounds we'll get to, and Ishan and CJ know so many sounds that I cannot do for the life of me, and I will literally never try. So like, these sounds are just the things I can do, and that's fine. I'll try my best to learn the others. But when you are learning, it's okay if you didn't get everything on this list, because I guarantee you're gonna find a few others that you're gonna like that are gonna work for you. Make those work for you. There's no Bible to beatboxing. You just make it work the way you want, make it want to work. Really quickly before we move on, we had, actually before I even go to time signatures, I wanted to, no, I take it back because they have a section they're talking about. We're going to time signatures. Time signatures, 4/4, 3/4, 6/8, complex time. Folks, I know a lot of us do mashups. I know a lot of us do songs that transition time signatures, potentially, or you do songs and many time signatures. I just alter the notation to match that. So you can see the dots on 4, dots for 3. I emphasize 1 and 4 in 6/8, and then I have the time signature marked in the notation, as you can see here. So it just changes, you just mark it in your notation as you see fit. Now the last thing, folks, all of you at home with all of your time to beatbox and all of your sitting down and your terrible posture. Your posture destroys beatboxing. Fix it. This posture is important, right? Because you're gonna have to breathe well. Rishi, great question. 3, 4, 6, 8. It's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. More waltzy. 6, 8. Yeah, that's how I feel it. I feel like there's more pop songs in 6, 8 than 3, 4. So unless you're like,
I got you covered. I got a whole thing on this.
yes, perfect.
We got feel.
We got it. All right, perfect. I'm gonna move on to breaths and breathing exercises. The first thing you need to do is find your diaphragm. If you don't know where your diaphragm is, you're gonna find it today. Go ahead and lie down on the floor. Go ahead and lie down on the floor. Yeah, go ahead and lie down on the floor. Go ahead and lie down on the floor. So when you lie down on the floor, there's a part of your stomach right here, right in the middle. This part is your diaphragm. So when you breathe in, just breathe in nice and gently. Feel that go up and down. That's your diaphragm. You need to know where that is. If you want to practice getting a stronger diaphragm, the first thing you should do, I'm going to sit up. Okay. Thank you for doing that with me. The first thing you need to do is to put some books on that diaphragm. Literally. My theater director in high school made me put 5 textbooks on my diaphragm before our show, and that's how I learned where it was. So yeah, if you want to work out, then do the books, make that diaphragm go up and down, really find it. The easier way is exercise 1. Clasp your hands and extend it forward with me. You're gonna interlock your fingers, put them forward, sit up nice and straight, check that posture, people. And you're gonna extend that diaphragm. When you do this, your diaphragm's working harder. So you're gonna be doing everything at like 110%. The benefit of that is once you work out harder, you're gonna have more stamina later. So it's gonna be harder to run out of breath on stage when you've overexerted yourself in the rehearsal. You'll never approach the limit that you do if you push yourself further. So that's a great technique. I did that religiously. That is what I did when I practiced. And if it's too hard to hold your hands up, just like mount it on a desk or something and just keep it like that. Exercise 2, breathe in for 4 beats, hold for 4 beats, breathe out on yeah, so that really works. Like the breath control, you're gonna be breathing in on and by the end of those 4 beats, I needed to get rid of all of that breath. So the value in this is you're gonna start pushing your breath out fast, you're gonna start breathing in and holding it consistently, and then you'll start being able to extend that breath. And you're gonna gradually start building more control as you hold it out for longer. So that's why it says 4/8/12. You're gonna hold it out for 4 beats, 8 beats, 12, 16, go on, add more until you hold out that breath, you stretch it out, and that way you get this really strong, controlled inward, outward breath. Last one is breathing in for 8, holding for 8, and then breathing out on S for as long as possible. We did this as a competition in rehearsals. It would be basically everyone breathes in for 8, you all hold for 8, and the last person who has the breath held out wins. So that's a good one to try. Learning by ear is not my forte, but I will say when I was doing orchestra and stuff was like, learning by ear was not how you learned that. For me, it was technique. And so for other people, learning by ear is a way better way. I'm passing it off to CJ and Ishaan now. So go ahead, talk to us about learning by ear.
All right, Ishaan, I'm gonna start us off strong. Very nicely done. Let's get it, y'all. Okay, so as I was saying before, first time I ever heard of beatboxing or saw it in person was in a high school auditorium, and I didn't think anything else of it. And that's really cool. That's awesome. So fast forward, get to college, join an a cappella group. I'm singing bass. It's awesome. I'm loving life. And then in comes this amazing exchange student from Japan, my lovely friend Ken, whom I will always praise for his amazing mentorship. He basically just came like a god and started beatboxing, and he kind of revolutionized how much I understood about what beatboxing can bring to a group, and his just his charisma. Great guy. Could talk about him all day, but this is about learning by ear, so I'm gonna get back to it. Awesome dude. So basically, I decided the following year, after he would depart back to Japan and wherever else the wind takes him, that I would try to pick up the mantle and start beatboxing for the team so that we would have a beatboxer, because we didn't outside of him. So that came with a couple situations. It was like I'd have never done this before, so there's that. So and I didn't really have sort of a plan or anything like that. Like it wasn't there was no standard to read. There was no classical interpretations of beatboxing from 1875. Like I couldn't, there was none of that. So what I did have was an amazing friend and a mentor that would be able to pass on this oral tradition. I mean, that's really how beatboxing has been passed on in as long as humans have been alive, is from one person to another via listening and emulating and all kinds of things. So a couple of the things that I wanted to share with you all for people who might just be starting or might have been going at it for a bit, like what kind of things what kind of resources can I use? What kind of things should I be looking to do with my time while I'm listening to music or things like that? Because that's really how I learned a lot of my stuff, honestly. So first thing you do is put on your favorite song. I mean, like, the words, right? But there's more to it than that. So as a beatboxer, my perspective kind of changed because I went from listening to the music to listening to the rhythm. And that switch in your head, I don't know if it was an aha moment for any other beatboxer, but like when you start listening and then being inquisitive about what are they doing in the production here? Like, what's the rhythm sounding like? What are the drums sound like? You don't listen to the drums, you feel the drums, right? You feel the, but you don't like listen for it. You know what I'm saying? So just now, every time I listen to music, I know what those drums are. Yeah, thank you. Exactly. It took the words right out of my mouth every single time. So you put on your favorite song and just listen to the rhythm, listen to the beat, listen to what the drums are doing, what the bass is doing. Because like I said, I started out as a bass, and like in the same principle applies. You're as a bass or a beatboxer, you have the ability to help facilitate the rhythm, the tempo, and the movement of the piece. Like it starts at the bottom and works its way up. It's the foundation for the music, and it's a wonderful ability to be able to share that with people. So when you start listening to your favorite songs and things like that, if you ever take a branch outward into new music, listening to stuff for the first time, try to think about what really grabs your attention in the music and keeps you feeling that rhythm, because a different production will accomplish it in different ways. And if you're in a different culture entirely or different style of music, that's also happens to be it just entirely different sounds that you've never even heard before or even thought to listen for. If you listen to Spanish music, which being from Miami, I gotta represent, you know what I'm saying? You hear that reggaeton, right? You know what that is. Everybody knows yeah, you feel that. You know exactly what that is. But like that kind of standard happens in many different cultures, and that those repeating patterns and that Arun will get to the whole pattern thing. Yeah, we got an app for that. Don't worry about it. So don't you worry. So in addition to listening to the music of now and the music to come, you also can listen to past performances of other beatboxers and things like that, because that is where you'll learn a lot of the technique that you can see in a live setting. Because performing on stage in an a cappella scenario, right, will change entirely based on the miking setup. It'll also change entirely based on the room that you're in. If you're in an auditorium, if you're in an outdoor gig, like everything changes out there. But if you're watching these other beatboxers and other performers, you get an idea of what it is that they're doing, and you can emulate that. Because like I said, it was literally listen to the snare in Umbrella. That's a great one we had on earlier. Listen to the snare in Rihanna's Umbrella, and you just try to emulate that sound. Try to make sure that sound is coming out of your mouth, basically. So I mean, nowadays you have YouTube, TikTok, all that stuff. It's all a resource. It may seem kind of ridiculous, but that is such a great resource. There are like, in addition to this workshop, there are other videos of other beatboxers doing their own interpretations of sounds, and they all sound different. That's the wonderful thing about beatboxing, is that if we, in that long list that we have there, like it won't even sound the same necessarily coming out of a different musician's mouth, right? Like it's your instrument is right here, and learning how to use that in a not structured setting is kind of how my journey began, and really basically got to me to the point that I'm at today. So like take a look at other acapella teams and listen to what it is that draws you in about their performance and their set, where the beatboxer is seen and isn't seen. And I'll explain more what I mean about that later on. But but basically, like, listen to the original versions of your song. So like I can't really express enough how the versions will change from person to person, and understanding where that variation is artfully is going to take you very, very far in terms of the production. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide real quick. So I wanted to, because you're listening to this music and it's like, yeah, this is sick, but how am I really learning from this? Like, what am I going to be able to take from this tomorrow or today? Like, if I turn on any old Usher song, like, I mean, it's lit. I don't like, how am I supposed to apply these techniques if I don't have a foundation that I've read from some other resource? Well, listen to the time signature. So and a lot of different songs in production nowadays, I mean, like 4/4 is pretty common. It's like the standard for a lot of the popular music that you might listen to. It may vary based on your genre, but like listening to the time signature and how the percussion differs in different time signature, like where the accents are. If you're in 4/4, you can lay down 4 to the floor and you won't really feel any difference on any of those beats. But if you're in 6/8, for example, that has a different feel to it. Think of a kind of like a ballad or a waltz, right? Like that's the kind of feel that you get from 6/8. So instead of, it's going to be on the 1 and 4. So you'll hear, maybe I came on too strong. Y'all know that Ed Sheeran, right? Okay, so that's basically what you're going to be listening to there, and being able to emulate those patterns and understanding why it makes you feel a certain way is going to be important. What makes a techno beat sound different? What makes a Afro beat sound different? The very percussive bongos, things like that, like get some kind of house music going. You know what I'm saying? Like all these different things are there for you to listen to and emulate, because that's really what music is nowadays. Is it's taking what's there and then putting your original spin on it, you know, and being able to take it for basically whatever suits you and your purposes. You know what I mean? So, oh, you had a question. Is there any advice for triplets? Okay. Triplets, it's entirely, there's so many takes you have on this, but I would say worry about your hi-hats. Like using your hi-hats in specific places is going to help you learn where the accents are in a specific pattern. At least that's worked for me in the past. So when I do the it's like a metronome almost, but it's a sound. It's a percussive sound, so it can work in any of your sets. But it allows you to basically compartmentalize the music a little bit more, and you can hear where the beats are changing. So see, if you use the hi-hat, the T sound, it really allows you to be able to break down that much easier. And then you can put all kinds of different sounds in it, right? Because I mean, learning the hard part about the 3/3 is not, you know, it's not the fact that the sound is difficult. It's learning about the pattern, right? Because once you have the sound, you can apply it. So definitely, it's definitely something to take into consideration. And when you're looking at sounds and you're listening to music, right, it's going to be in a production setting likely, which is why I also said to look at videos that are online and things like that, so you can get a feel for the live setting, because things will come across very differently depending on the miking situation as well. And there'll also be a section for that. Don't worry, we're going to get into that as well. So something that helped me, because you, as a beatboxer, you're not just laying down the beat, you're also laying down the tempo. And like if you're off, if you're just starting, I would highly recommend practicing with a metronome, just even like for basic like even if it's your set and you know it, right? Like try doing it with the metronome, see how much it changes, see where you speed up, see where you can't help but go too hard, because you'll catch yourself. Even if you've done it for hours and hours and hours in rehearsal, if you practice with a metronome, you're going to find places where you're like, whoa, okay, whoa, pump the brakes, wait a minute. It's so imperative. And because I didn't start recording with my team until probably the later half of my college career, I didn't really notice any of these things until they have a click in your ear when you're in the studio and you're like, oh, okay, slow down, pump it. we gotta back it up a little bit. So definitely make sure that you're practicing with a metronome, because the team is essentially relying on you to maintain the pace. And if you're like the conductor with a mic in your hand. So I definitely yes. And putting a little triangle, yeah, absolutely. I can't express this enough, because there are so many moments in our sets where I get really, really excited, and because we're hyped, we're like, this is the crescendo, you know what I'm saying? Like the phrasing is everything's coming together. We got this wow moment, but like I'm really anxious to get there because we've done it so many times and it's just fun and it's amazing and everybody's there, and we just need to slow it down just a little bit so people can just milk it. You know what I'm saying? Just milk it a little bit longer. Just it makes such a difference when you don't rush those sections, because those are very impactful sections that people are going to remember in the performance, and you don't want to speed past that, right? Like it definitely helps. So accenting parts of a piece, this this in particular differs from when you're listening to produced music and a live setting, right? The way you accomplish this is very different, because in a production setting, you're going to have the same musical components be present for the most part, but how important they are and how much you can control them differ. Because in a recording session, you can turn down people, right? You can mix and master the volumes levels, the levels for your own sounds and things like that. But in a live setting, it's kind of difficult to do that to such a fine degree. So making sure that you're accomplishing the same thing that you would in a live setting. Let's say, I don't know. So if we're at the hypest point in the piece, and the soloist is about to just go off and everybody's watching them, my job is to get us there and make sure that I'm accenting and complementing this part of the piece. How I do that is going to be different than if I'm in a production setting, because like you can also add levels of dynamics and things like that. Like there's just a lot of nuance to it, and just understanding where you're listening to your music. Oh, this is the hype part. How are they accomplishing it there? Watching a YouTube video or past performance and seeing, oh, this is the hype part. How are they accomplishing that? Like those will allow you to be able to emulate that, and then really hit home your parts of the performance, because that's what the audience is going to remember for sure. And I think that's a good starting point for like what to listen for. So now, okay, this is a little ridiculous, okay? What I did here, what you're looking at, is the first sound bank that I ever made with my my friend Ken. So what we did while we were on our grind, right? He was trying to teach me how to do some sounds, and there were some things that I could do that he couldn't do. Just like innately, I would like try to emulate a sound, right? And then he would be like, "How are you doing that?" And then I'd be like, "Oh, I'm just doing this." And because I just had a different idea, obviously learning by ear how to accomplish that sound, because I didn't necessarily look up, "Oh, how do I make this sound?" You know what I'm saying? So and so when we did this, we segmented it from an anatomical perspective, kind of like which parts of your face and your head are making the sounds. Like what's the most impactful part of the sound, right? I couldn't tell you what some of these mean, because we did it as a collaborative effort. But the purpose of this being here is for you to understand that you can personalize your journey as a beatboxer so much to fit your needs. Like as a team, we wanted to be able to have me as the mic bass, be able to provide some of the bass drums and stuff like that. And he was also the beatboxer. So what I would do is I would compliment him, and we would be able to help layer each other in that in specific parts of the piece, which is a really helpful thing. So this fit our needs pretty well. And he basically, because I was beginning, he would put lip, teeth, throat, etc., to explain to me how he's making that sound, right? So you don't necessarily have to segment it like this, but I wanted it to be here and for you to understand that, you know, there's a lot of different ways you could segment this. Actually, could you go back one more? This is this is honestly a nice way to get it. So if you look at the throat section, you'll see the tabla, taka, tabla dom, like that's how he taught me essentially how to do some of the South Asian sounds from the music that I had never listened to basically up to that point. Because as coming in as a musician, like I have not even beatboxed once in my entire life. So he taught me all the Western sounds, and then he would try to help me emulate that. So in a similar Western gentrification, like this is like how I would do the tabla sounds, like so like emphasis on the accented on the taka, and on it's like a dip. It's a very percussive and very I almost attribute it kind of to like a bongo. So I mean that was my basically foot in the door for for this kind of music, but it provides such a flow, right? Like you feel that rhythm, and that's essentially what we wanted to encapsulate with this list. There are definitely a lot of things in here that he was very good at doing bird songs and whistles and things like that, and that's crazy to me because like I don't use whistles at all in my beatboxing, and I don't know if Ishan or Arun does, but like he would do some crazy stuff where you could because your teeth is really providing the whistle. That means that there are other parts of your face that can help and layer other things with that. So that's another reason I wanted to include this here, is because understand that each part of your anatomy is performing a task, right, at any given time, and you can combine them once you've gotten used to how they feel as individuals. So part of my beatboxing journey still is learning how to use vocalization with percussive elements that, my lips are moving, right? But that doesn't mean my throat needs to just chill there and not do anything, right? So you can add some vocalization in there. If you're using your teeth for a whistle, you can provide a vibration with your lips, and then you can use your nose to provide some kind of a nasal sound. Like there's so many different things that you can do with this information, and that's why I really wanted to put this here, because you listen to sounds, and usually how they're displayed is like, this is a sound, this is a sound, this is a sound, but there's multiple sounds layered within them. And if you can figure out how they're separated and what's going on there with your own body, then it'll really help you be able to create some really unique sounds. Like imagine a cricket sound with a bass and like, I don't know, just throw one random other thing in there, but like that's crazy. And if you just threw that in as a fill randomly, somebody's gonna go, "Whoa, what was that?" Like that's creative, and that's part of what your job is to make these accents pop out and put your own flair on it. You know what I mean? So definitely consider where your sounds are coming from as you're learning them, and then learn to try and layer some of those on top of one another, because you can find something that you might not have even known that you could make. So I think that's it for this one. Let's see what we got. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably pitch in now. So yeah, just to provide like a contrast in the way that I learned how to beatbox versus the way that Arun learned, for example, I have never taken a single note for beatboxing in my life. I've never written anything down. I just made everything when I was in acapella in college, just by listening. I think that's just sort of just what worked for me, but I definitely can see how much a benefit I would have had if I also knew how to note take and knew how to do all the notating stuff that we've been learning today. So just want to say that just so that we all know, like, you don't have to necessarily go one way or the other. Just whatever feels comfortable for you. Push yourself to, keep growing. But this is just an example where I essentially just I listened to, we sang Nina Cried Power. And so essentially I just tried to imitate the sort of beat that happens in the song. So I don't know, this is just an example if you could play it.
It's not the shade, we should be past it. It's the light and it's the obstacle.
And then, I don't know, I tried to sort of redo that in my own version when we actually sang it, which you can hear here.
Not the song, it is the singer. It is the heaven of a human spirit ringing.
But yeah, so, just take ideas, take elements and accents from the original, See what things you like, what things you want to change, what things work with your team, and what your team's sound is coming out to be. And I think that's just a really good way to like at least have a starting point. Like, yes, you don't want to copy the original exactly, then there's no point. But just to get an idea of what you can do, it's definitely a cool idea to just listen to what rhythms the original song has. And then, using all the elements that you've learned from other teams, from other like songs, you can also just put in like your own elements when you're beatboxing.
Not the song, it is
Yeah, I don't know. This is just another example of water drops in a set. I think we had a special request for how you can incorporate water drops in a set. So this is just a song where I did water drops in it. I don't know. Yeah.
I'm jealous of the rain that falls upon your skin.
Okay. I guess since a lot of people like this song, it's like this noise. I do that one click, like that. Everyone can do that, like just normal. And then I whistle in an upwards fashion while doing that. So it's like. So it's just like combining a whistle going upwards with that little click thing. So it's really not that hard if you know how to whistle and click. You just have to do it at the same time. And then I use a similar method for when I do my tabla. Though, like, I essentially just do like a bass hit, like a kick hit, and then do the same like upward movement, like. So I don't know. It's like, I don't know. It's just combining different sounds together. But yeah, you'll hear from me soon. But I think we'll go back to Arun for now.
I'm
Computer freaked out for a second, but we're back. We're good to go, and we're back on the VP line. Yeah, Zoom is gonna play the song every single time I switch things. It happened every single time in virtual school last year. Yep. So sorry if that happens in all our examples that come up in a little bit. I don't know if we have any more videos, but we are going to talk about making a VP line. So I'm going to obviously frame this from my point of view, which is when I'm writing. So you're going to see a lot of notation here. The same thing can come from you just applying it with your mind. So let's think about the goal, right? What's the point? Why y'all here? The goal of being a VP is to elevate your singers. They are the PP, the people. I'm going to leave now. They're the people who benefit from your VP, your vocal percussion. I separate beatboxing from vocal percussion because once we get into a cappella, we are applying beatboxing to music, right? And when we want to write a song, like any other full song, there are elements to music that are general, right? There's melody, and in this case, we have percussion. So this is the framing of vocal percussion is not just the technical beatboxing, but it's the arranging part behind it as well. So we keep our performance attention on the singers, the audience is focusing on them, and since we have that percussion, we are controlling that feel and that emotion that the group conveys and the audience picks up. So let's talk about some common Western rhythms, everyone. For if you are someone who likes taking notes, this is the moment to go if you haven't been already, because these common rhythms are the 5 rhythms I started with on literally everything. I am not kidding you. You go through any Nor'easter song and in some way, shape, or form, one of these 5 is in there. Usually it's that, and it's pretty similar to what's written here. Boots and Cats is literally a rock beat. I formerly still call it the Amili beat because it's from Amili by Lil Wayne. I call it a rock beat as well because a lot of rock music has it. So variations on that might be. You can throw in sounds here and there. Just know that this is the structure in general. You can switch things in and out in those spaces that you see in the notation. With 3-3-2, this is an interesting one. This is one that Bijal really explained to me and was one of his rhythms. It's Now, the reason I'm sharing this is because if I'm ever stuck, I actually go to that rhythm. There are so many permutations you can do. Swap out the kick for another snare. If it's in, we did Crying in the Club once, that was a really fast 3-3-2. Same thing. It's basically you're subdividing in 3, 3, and 2. 1, 2, 3 is a unit, is another unit, is the last unit. And so you have these 3 different units that you can modify throughout. And so 3-3-2 is a really useful way to build over a section. If you're struggling at a part where you're like, our energy's not doing the thing it needs to do, try 3-3-2, might change your life. 4 on the floor is the dance beat. It's the tropical beat. It's the Afro beat. It's the reggaeton. It's everything. All 4 on the floors come from those 4 hits on each of the beats. And then all of the variations and permutations that you can make give it that flair. So when we were talking about like those different cultures, this is exactly a thing you should be looking out for. 4 on the floors in Latin and in Indian and in African and in all of these cultures. Like there are so many things. I mean, when I was introduced to Indo-Caribbean music, there's a name for it, which I don't know, but it's wild. You just see all of these combinations of 4 on the floor. Really, I love that because you can find it anywhere. And then halftime is when you split your bar into 1 and 3. It's great for a drop. Though in all honesty, and I may be hated by saying this now, but I feel like it's a little overdone. Like it happens a lot in drops. So while this might have been like one of my go-tos back in the day, I honestly might recommend try a 3-3-2 in a drop and see where your life goes. We're gonna go on to a pattern bank because this is actually where things get interesting. When you are writing your beats, right? For me, I need to know what I am doing. And so for me, I need to see it. And to know what I can do, I need to see it. And so that's my pattern bank. I write down patterns from songs I found interesting. So like how they were saying, like CJ and Ishaan have songs they listen to and performances. For me, I listen to it and I notate it. And so for me, that helps me go back to any interesting patterns in rehearsal. And I can say, oh shit, like I need something more interesting here. Let me go to my pattern bank. There's something in there I can find. I got stuff from Umbrella. I got Shake It Off by Taylor Swift. I've got Elastic Heart in there. I've got a random other song in there. I've got throat-based rhythms. I've got stuff by YouTube beatboxers. I'm like trying to read through this old book. This is literally my first beatboxing notebook. It's falling apart and I still have it. You'll see some more from that in a second, but the pattern bank is literally the first page of the book. So when I recommend you're building your foundations, this is something that I highly recommend you make a part of your foundations, because if you can commit to getting these into your muscle memory, it becomes so much easier to do so many new things. The last thing, a modifier that I use a lot, that I draw so you can visualize it, but then I just think of it in my head, is pitch versus volume. And it's literally an XY graph where volume's on your Y-axis, pitch is on your X-axis. And so when you go up in volume, you are going up your Y-axis, or if you're going down, vice versa. Pitch, pitch, if you're going up, you're going right, other way, you're going down. So the reason I show this is because those sounds that I showed in my list before, those are the only sounds I can do. But I get a lot out of those sounds because I have this chart. And the goal with this chart, when you look at this and you see, you're not really thinking about the edges. I want you to think about the center, the origin. I want you to find your 0, 0 right now. Let's go ahead and just listen to our own kick. Go ahead and make a kick drum for yourself. That is your 0, 0. That's your origin, literally. That's where we're starting with our beatboxing, right? You need to know that, because from there is where you build. So when you are practicing, practice by extending your way up and down the axes. Make a K snare. Now make it high pitched. How do we make it high pitched? Give me an E. Ooh, give me an ooh. Let's go down. Give me a sliding function. Let's go from pitch down to pitch up. How about volume? You got a normal snare. It's how much you breathe out, right? But if you want to add more weight, put some more breath. I had to turn down my gain for the last one. But literally work your way to the highest volume that you can. Because once you get to that high volume, you'll know, that volume, that much breath, yeah, I can't do that in a performance. And so you'll know. And you'll be able to say, like, okay, if I'm putting that much breath through this sound, I'm gonna die. So, like, let me go a little bit lower. Great, problem solved. Now, at the same time, now you can say, there's a moment, there's a hit that's really strong. I'm gonna slap the fuck out of that hit. Like, it's gonna be so strong, it's gonna be great. And I'm gonna, boom! That hit is gonna, boom! And this is the power of the pitch versus volume chart, because when you wanna make a crash cymbal that doesn't sound like pss, then make your volume high and drop your pitch. Very different, same mechanism, getting more out of less. Pitch versus volume, I live by that. Yeah, truly, 8th graders are quite something. Creating by hand versus creating by ear, they're not diametrically opposed. If you create by hand, you'll benefit from reading and studying the sheet music. If you're creating by ear, you'll strongly benefit from these recordings and listening to yourself. And combining the two is the best. So always reflect and review on your run-throughs, your warm-ups, your gigs. I was mentioning in the chat, I actually had markings on my sheet music, on my new notation. I actually want to show you some of my notation. This is a few different songs that I did with the Nor'easters. Some of them you can find on YouTube. This one, I don't think you can. This is Don't Be So Hard on Yourself. It's pretty simple. As you can see on the left picture, there is a section at the top. It says intro, and then a few lines down it says A, B, C, D. It's my rehearsal markings. It lines up with the arrangement. If your arrangements don't have rehearsal markings, take the time when you get an arrangement to put your rehearsal markings in and solidify parts where you're going to start and end all together, so that way you know what phrases are really important. This rehearsal marking, that's all I needed, because then I could say, okay, there's 2 measures next to A. That's it. That's what I'm doing for A, and I'm repeating that. B, how many times am I repeating the first line? Take a look at the last bit of that line. I see a double bar, colon, times 3. Do it 3 times. Shorthand. Make it quick. Make it easy for yourself. This is our ICCA set. On the other side of things, when we did our 2017 ICCA set, I was going in. Cheyenne looks like a mess. Take a look at this. All right. In the middle, do you see all that crap I crossed off and I put a bracket around? Right next to it, I said, cut 2 bars here. Because we literally cut 2 bars from the arrangement between semis and finals. Do you know how much of a nightmare that is for a beatboxer? Well, doing it on the paper, you can see I am losing these 2 bars. I need to accommodate for that in my section before. So you can see I erased it and I changed it and I kind of swore in the margins about how I had to change it. And then I put little annotations below it. If we zoom in a lot, which I can't here, but if we zoomed in, we would be able to see the triangles above sections like F, where you see a triangle with an arrow pointing forward. That's basically where I listened back and I said, I'm rushing there, be careful. On the other side, there's creaks. There's no drums in that except for a little whoosh at the end. I still left a page for it though, because there's always space. Second to last one was Who's That Girl and intro. That's the middle parts of her song. You can see there's a lot of lines pointing up and down at the top and the bottom. Those are my whooshes. So I had upward and downward whooshes. All of those are very planned. And I actually have markings saying where I'm breathing in, where I'm breathing out. You see the arrows pointing out of a sound. That's me extending a sound, like something like that. And yeah, drop the fucking bass, bro. That was actually Beejel who wrote that in my notebook. He was there for a set review right before finals, and he said, the thing that's gonna get you to finals well is a drop. And see a little Triforce symbol right there. Yeah, that's all of us dropping it, and that's the set. These are other 2 songs. I put these in here so when you have access to this presentation later, you can go back and listen to Nor'easter's recordings on YouTube and find Breathin' on the right and New Rules on the left. New Rules is about half of New Rules, but Breathin', that's pretty much all of it. I had to write it on a plane in 6 hours. That's a fun story. Bass and beatboxing. I can't do that. CJ, can you do that? Can you bass and beatbox at the same time?
Like on Monday through Sunday, usually. Occasionally. Yeah. No, I can. So basically, like I said, my story started with the bass. Started as a vocal percussionist, the mic'd bass, essentially. So I'm sure y'all know what it is, but if you don't, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, it's essentially there's going to be a singer in your bass section, a bass, who's going to have a mic. they're the mic bass. Everyone else is going to be a cappella in that sense where you're just not, you don't have a mic. So I don't know if the every competition is going to be like this. Back in the day, I say that like I'm so old. Oh my God. Back in the day when we only had a couple of mics, there were solo mics, there was a VP mic, and there was a mic bass. And that's all we had. So if you're in a competition or in a setting or in a gig setting where you only have a limited number of mics, if you're going to give the bass an additional mic so that way they can like be heard more, because in a setting where you don't have all these bells and whistles in a production booth to make the bass come out more and turn on a bunch of subwoofers and start bumping, like you're just going to be hearing a lot of the higher frequency sounds. It's just the way sound works. Higher frequency is going to be heard much easier to carry throughout the air. So that's an important thing to understand as a beatboxer as well. So they're very similar in the bases and beatboxing, like what you do. Like I said before, you're going to be trying to accompany the rest of the piece and lay down the foundation for it to be a success. So a couple things that I want to talk about in regards to bass versus beatboxing. Hang on, I have it in my notes here. Bear with me for a second. Okay. So you're going to be wanting to understand the difference between frequencies via high and low as a beatboxer as well, because the mic positioning is going to be almost everything that you can control during your performance. So we'll get into mic technique in a second, but basically when you hold the mic closer to your nose and right underneath the bridge, that's going to be able to allow the mic to pick up the most low frequency sounds. So understanding that as a bass, like that's where I started, right? So as a beatboxer, the same thing holds true. When you want your kicks and your vocalization to be picked up more, you're going to use the, yes, nasal cavity is your resonator. And the reason why that I was usually the mic bass is because I just naturally have a lot of resonance in my, I don't know if you can hear it, but like bass, it's just all there. It's all being pushed right there. So when you're doing higher sounds like hi-hats and things like that, you're not going to want to put it there as much because you're losing some of the directional like sound. So you can change it a little bit in the performance, but for the most part, you're going to want to be holding it right there underneath your nose and getting the most sound that you can. So understanding that these two, the bass and the beatbox are laying down the foundation for the music is going to be critical, because when you're in a setting where you're going to be working with the music director, flip the slide. Yes, let's go. Remember this. I'm plagiarizing a little bit because Arun just said it so perfectly, and I can't stress this enough. Like, this is the holy grail for what your job is as a vocal percussionist, not as a beatboxer, as a vocal percussionist. You are there to make sure that everything that happens in the set is noticed and everybody is like paying attention to it. You're not here to distract them. So don't get it twisted. Like, you might have a point where you're the soloist, or a couple cool things that you're doing, but what you don't want to do is you don't want to be laying down 4 to the floor, and then you get to this climax, and then you start laying down like some electro funk beat, and it's like, whoa, that doesn't really match with what's going on here. Like, you want to make sure that you're in context, you're providing a good atmosphere and a good flow for the music to keep progressing forward. So as a person who didn't really do a lot of notation in the beginning of my beatboxing career, I mainly leaned on my understanding of the movement in the bass section and the other moving parts to understand where the climaxes were, where the dynamics were, because everything that's happening in the piece on the rubric that isn't beatboxing is still going to matter. Blend, dynamics, all that stuff is going to matter, and you can help accent those things by using your sounds to give a crescendo of your own kind, but you don't want to overpower everybody. So understanding, like, if you have a high frequency sound, like I love my inward K. I remember the first time when I started learning how to make it, like, Ken was like, just like put your tongue to the roof of your mouth and like breathe in, and then just like let the pressure release. And I was like, okay. And then I did it on accident and I lost my mind. I just, like, it was amazing. So, but understanding, like, that is one of my favorite sounds. Just and it's extremely loud and there's a lot for the mic to take in there. So in a section where I want to maintain the rhythm and I want to maintain the accents of the rhythm, but I don't want to overpower the soloist, I have to change that sound, because it's a great sound when things are moving, but when it's quiet, I don't want to just come in with a out of nowhere. Like that'll detract from the performance, and that's what your job is not to do. So when you're working with your music director, as I did pretty intimately, make sure that you're understanding that you're the leader of the tempo, you're the maestro, you're the conductor. When the music director can't conduct during a performance, like they're relying on you to essentially be that person. The dynamics, very, very important in a live setting, because that's everything. In a production setting, you can turn the knob, you can do all that stuff, but delivering on the dynamics and providing those swooshes and whatever else that you decide, those revs and those drops and everything to capitalize on these moments is so critical. And yes, I couldn't have said it better myself. Like obviously internal tempo is important, but if you're the one with the mic and the percussion, it's even more important for you to be good at it, right? You can't not be good at that. So make sure that you're listening to the bass line, because a lot of the time, if you're lost in a section, especially when you're just beginning and you don't really know what to do as the beatboxer in a section, listen to the bass. Like whatever they're doing, you could very easily mimic that and then add a little bit of vocalization or just a kick, and it would probably be okay. It would probably sound right. So definitely listen to that. And make sure that you're able to help the piece shine in its wow moments, during whether that be during a transition, a callback to a piece that happened earlier in the set, or even during a soloist like biggest moments. Like you want to make sure that you're aware of phrasing and movement in the piece, like movement in the piece, and understanding like themes that are happening in your set, to be able to like carry that through. Like, oh, this is going to be the part in the set where we're quietest and we're basically having a reprieve from all the motion and the fast pace that we have everywhere else. So understanding that and adjusting your decisions as a beatboxer and a vocal percussionist to like, hey, I'm going to choose to use more muted sounds that instead of using a K snare, I'll use a P snare because it won't come across as loud, or I can use a hi-hat or a crash cymbal as a snare essentially instead, because it's more muted, doesn't come across as loud and rambunctious, I guess. So definitely understanding that is something that you'll learn as you go, and learn as you get a feel for what you are able to produce and what your music director is essentially trying to accomplish with the set, right? Because at the end of the day, a bunch of performers working together, you want to make sure that the message is heard, and your job is to make sure that you're doing your part to make that happen.
I quickly added arranger bass. I mean, you just said about bass, so I want to quickly say, if you have access to your arranger, link up with them, see what their vision is, and do that with your soloist as well. See what emotions and performance moments that they feel is important, because if you link up with them, you can vibe off their energy. Ishaan, we have transitions.
Sweet. So yeah, I mean, you guys feel free to pitch in too. I just did a couple of transitions that I use. One main thing that I do a lot of times is just blending. So if it's like a Western song to a Desi song, I like have elements of like a Western beat going, and then when I'm transitioning, I essentially like take out elements of the Western beat, make it simpler, and then add more elements of like the Desi beat in. So like in this example, it's just a song that I did at A3 with my team NZ. Oh, Vijay, nice. But yeah. So essentially, I guess you could sort of see that. Yeah, so it starts with the Western beat, essentially removing stuff, adding the Desi elements in, the tabla, the bass tabla, and I don't know what the words are called, and then the tabla sound, and then it just essentially fully transitions to the tabla thing. But yeah. So there's also, you can just do sudden and abrupt transitions. I mean, this just depends on the mood of the song. If it's something that your MDs are going for, I mean, this is an example, same song where we did this, so you can. So this is essentially there's like a pretty obvious difference in each section, and so you can sometimes you don't have to like blend and make it an eventual transition. You can just go right into it, just to match the energy. And then next slide, and then yeah, the last one is just fun. It's just sometimes if you're not trying to show off, sometimes you can use cool beatboxing noises to fill the empty space, especially when you're trying to build up energy in a cool spot. I think this video is a cool thing where I do a click roll to transition.
जो लोग बाग है जंगल की आग है क्यों आग में जलूं
So yeah, I think that sometimes like beatboxing noises, cool noises like that can really help. And also, what a big thing that's important is communicating what sounds and patterns you can make with your MDs. Sometimes they won't even know. Like you could be a really good beatboxer and they'll just never know. So it's important that they know. Like my team knew I could make this noise, so they intentionally left that small area of empty like chords only and no vocals so that I could make that noise in that spot. So coordinating with your MDs to do stuff like that is really important. And then next.
Last thing really quick is when you're doing competition sets, the framework I approach it in, if you're doing multi-song sets, I start with like a storyline, like something that I'm trying to say throughout the set. And so when we're talking about transitions, I approach it from this narrative perspective. And then after thinking about a story, I think about the emotions through it. Design it, build it, architecture, right? A real house. Your set is your castle. Your set is the image of your choosing. Build it, have that fleshed out, because then when you map it, you compose it, you can follow along with it, build it bigger, add an extension, add a garage, add another roof. You're gonna maximize this house of yours by looking at all the spaces, looking at all the opportunities that you can either minimize, take things away and make it simpler, or add something new. And then once you've maximized, you have to link it to your body, right? You gotta do choreo. And the technical work of practicing all of that will go out the window when you got to do choreo, but you got to practice it. And so we're going to talk about stage presence and choreo because both of those together are important parts of being a beatboxer, right? We don't want to stand on stage and literally go back and forth. I will point you to the first videos of Nor'easters from 2016, where I literally faced out to the audience for the whole time and everyone else was facing in on an arc. It was really awkward. So think about our stage presence.
Okay, I got you. Let's run it. So basically, definitely, if you have the opportunity, you should tune into the choreography workshop that's coming soon. Definitely some awesome people working on that, and they got more to say about stage presence than in a broader sense than we do. But from a beatboxing perspective, and as a performer, my entire life pretty much I've been performing in that. This resonates with me. This right here, because even though you show up with the mic, and as a vocal percussionist, you have a job to do, right? You can't forget that you're still a performer. Like that's at the end of the day, people are still going to be watching you. There's not going to be an asterisk above your head that says, "Don't look at this guy. He's laying down the beat. Just watch everybody else." Like no. That doesn't work. So there are a couple of techniques that you can use to make sure that you are still going to be contributing positively to the mood, the intensity of every part of your set while you're on stage laying down the sickest beat possible. So making sure that your facial expressions are still relevant is something that you have to practice, because often there's a methodical way of doing a beat and having repetition, and you're thinking in 1 2 3 4 and all this and that, so you might not necessarily be as focused on what's happening with your face, but people are watching it, and you're going to have tics and things that you do like automatically that you can't control, and that's okay. But learning to bake these tendencies into those like habits is going to make you an overall better performer, and something that I developed over the years. So making sure that your facial expression is still the focus of whatever that you're doing to express yourself, well, because you don't want to compromise your sound ever as a performer to make like something happen visually, but you do want to make sure that you're still engaging with the audience. So if you can't move your mouth in a specific way because you have to make your mouth have a specific sound, or you got the mic here, like your eyes can tell a story if people are looking at you and in the lighting. Like you can't really, I wish I could have put better picture to capture this moment, but there are times in the set where I'm just crazy eyed. Like I'm a completely different beast. And because there's an important aspect of whenever an audience being able to look at you and say, whoa, there's like a whole story being told just from you making eye contact with them. Also, your body language, moving with intention is very, very important, because you can move in the rhythm, but moving to tell a story and moving to get to your next spot, like all these things, like it's very clear when somebody's like just taking a stroll on stage, and when they're moving and trying to be intentional and have a purpose behind whatever they're doing on stage. That's such a big difference. I can't even express that enough. So how do you do that? You making sure that your body is facing the way that you like you want it to. You have to be conscious of like the way your shoulders, like you can't just be facing the audience head on, right, and just standing there. Like that's not your goal. Your goal is to tell a story, whether it be the movement of the piece, the movement. Sorry, Arun. I just it was easy enough to say. But there's another thing that you can do to make sure that your body language is being conveyed. Pick an emotion, just any part in the set, like just to start. Pick an emotion that you're feeling at different parts in the set and just run with that. Practice that so that in your reps, in your routine, in your rehearsals, when you get to a specific spot, you know, oh, there isn't just a drop coming in 4 measures. There's also a smile coming in 4 measures, because I need to be smiling for this part and really accent what's happening and what's moving in the music. Because like if they're looking at the beatboxer and say, oh, that person is really engaged and they're like, this is amazing, like it's going to make such a big difference. Also, depending on the intensity of the set, it may be even warranted to just pick a character, like play a character, play something that is not just a performer. Like I can't tell you how many times I've essentially played this evil demon who's laying down these growls and ridiculous sounds coming out of my mouth. But like when you have a moment, if you have a moment in your set, like in the one I have pictured right here, where I'm just standing there trying to be this demon who's controlling people, exactly, like it really helps you to be able to let your body tell the rest of the story while you're doing things with your mouth. So, whether it be a florist, a business person, or a demon, I don't know, whatever you want it to be, but make sure that you understand where you are as a performer in the pieces in your set, because like baking that into your habits will make you as a better performer overall without you having to focus on it too much, because you'll have the reps, right? So making sure you practice how you play. That's definitely the biggest takeaway.
All right, this is really important. We don't have so much time, so definitely look over this again if you need to. Um, so this is just how to hold the mic. Seems so simple, but it really makes all the difference. Think about it. If you hold the mic just like any other vocalist does, your mic like will always be moving away from your face at different levels. It'll be inconsistent. Some beats will be louder, some beats will be quieter, and it's just a mess. So holding the mic is really important. What's sort of counterintuitive is when you beatbox, you want to hold the mic on the actual cap itself. So there's many ways to hold it. Um, like I don't know, say this is my water bottle, and this is the mic cap. The first one is a standard grip, is just holding it like literally just all around. So you're holding that and making like a direct tunnel straight from your mouth to the mic. It's really just an all-around great technique to hold it, but you can also the con of this is that nasal and vocal sounds aren't like maximized as much. Yes, Aaron, thank you. Everyone, please try. The other option is a one-up grip, and essentially that's just you take your index finger and you put it up so that essentially what this does is it keeps the mic a pretty equal distance from your mouth at all times, and it cups your mic just between your nose and your like your mouth. So it captures a lot more noise from both your nose and your mouth. Some nose sounds, like if you start vocalizing while beatboxing, that'll be a big thing. If you're humming, if you're yeah, if you're doing any sort of bass noise while you're also beatboxing, in those cases, having a one up grip can be very beneficial. Um, Aaron, if you could change slides, please. And then two hand cup is also another option. This is for, obviously we have choreo going when we're in the set, so you can't really use this very often. Maybe in the beatbox off, or if you have a solo part. This just is a really good way to have every single sound be picked up. But the problem with this is because the air is sort of all being trapped into this mic, it sometimes can get muddled because it's sort of echoing around in this little chamber you're making. So you just sort of want to be careful with that, but it does capture all the sounds really well. And then cupping grip is the last one. It's just you're literally holding onto the mic with just your two fingers and you're just holding it over like just like a cup. So that's also a great option, but I think it's hard because I can't hold a mic is heavy after a long time, and holding a mic with two fingers is a lot of work. So I don't know. I personally prefer the one up grip. You guys pick what you want, but definitely don't do the just don't just hold it. That's the main takeaway. So yeah, I think that concludes our lectures. Um,
Yeah, if there's anything you guys want to say about improvising or your experiences on stage, go ahead. And then, yeah, we'll go into the solos.
I think, yeah, just to start off, I don't have much to say about improv per se because I think everything that I did was sort of like just listening and repeating itself until I could memorize what I wanted to do. But one thing that I think is a common phenomenon for a lot of beatboxers, I know Arun and CJ and I were talking about this the other day. When you go up on stage, it is so different. Your mouth will dry the hell up. And it's just like no noise sounds the same. And honestly, you just got to make sure that you don't let that get to you. Like at the end of the day, you can only do what you can do like in that moment. And so just try your best. Like yes, your mouth might feel like a desert, but that's all you can work with. So just prepare for that ahead of time, understand your limitations and what might happen and expect for those things to happen. And just go with the punches, you know?
For me, improving was like just drawing from my pattern bank. So if I ever needed to improvise on the spot, I had a list of things I could do. When you go up there and you can't remember what to do, that's when having those 5 basic rhythms was really helpful because then I could say, I'm literally going to do 30 seconds by doing each of those rhythms for 4 bars. Done. So that was usually the way I go improv.
Yeah, for me, because I started as a just straight up vocalist and I had little background in beatboxing, I would probably start with singing something or humming something and then just take the beat and run with it of some kind in some version, some way, shape, or form. Because that was just me. That's where I felt comfortable. It allowed me to feel comfortable, set the stage for myself, and then just let the creative improv flow. Like, what am I gonna do here? Just playing around because I mean, improv is meant to be improv, right? You're trying to show what it is that you can do, but also just have fun up there. Like that's the biggest thing. It's like even if it wasn't the best improv, like just making sure you can come away from it smiling, laughing, and really just you're surrounded by so many different people in this scenario, like who do the same thing you do and can do it in such a different and unique way. Like that's such an exciting feeling. And I just rode that dopamine all the way through the show. Didn't matter what happened. So that definitely helped when, in the middle of my solo, my throat dried out and I couldn't finish the phrase. So that definitely helps.
All right, who's taking it away? Arun, Ishan, CJ, to you guys.
Everyone's going not it. So, oh, nose goes. Ishaan, you're up.
Okay.
Did I actually lose nose goes? Yeah, I didn't even see.
Yeah, I didn't even know nose goes was happening.
Yeah, I was typing one thing in the chat, but one last thing I wanted to say is at competitions, yes, it's a little bit competitive sometimes, obviously, but don't feel afraid or don't feel awkward to talk to other beatboxers. We are a community in and of ourselves, and so learn from each other. I know Arun, CJ, even I had some great mentors that we like just naturally had from like that came before us, but you might not have that at your school. So take advantage of the opportunity to meet these other great beatboxers. If you see a good beatboxer at a competition, don't get intimidated. Learn from them. Figure out what you can do to be more like the things that you liked. I know I learned plenty from CJ. Learned a lot today from Arun. So just try to always keep that sort of friendly and learning mentality going. And I guess I will start this mother friggin' thing. God dang it. Okay. Do I just go? Is this just a go thing?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. All right, that's me.
Holla. That was
Let's get
lit.
it. Sick. So fucking sick. All right, CJ, you just muted yourself, and you know I threw Ishaan under the bus, so I'll go next. Shit. All right. Do you mind if I copy an old beatbox solo routine I did? I'm trying to remember that. It's not really freestyling. It's just kind of an old thing I had. Shout out to Post Malone for Sunflower. Eh, 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 eh. Ooh, 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 ooh. Woo! That was a hiccup sound. Didn't mention it before, but the CJ, your turn.
And a hiccup was so cool. I was muted, but oh my gosh, I love that. He was like, whoop, whoop, that's the sound of the police. It was awesome. Okay. Well, I guess we'll just get right into it. So I'm gonna preface this by saying that I don't have a huge sound bank, but I'll show you how you can use some of the basic stuff to make something fun. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh no, we can't hear you.
What?
Your mic's not catching.
CJ, do you have original audio on?
Oh yeah. Forgot. I turned it off for this. Let me get it on. Okay. Forgot to do this beforehand. Here we go. Here we go. Bam. Let's get it. We got original sound now. Does that work?
It does.
All right.
Perfect.
Cool. Sick. All right. Simple stuff. Party. I know what you came here to see. Now, if you a freak, you was coming home with beats going down. It's going down for.
Holy cow. You guys are so talented. I could never. I can't even do boots and cats. I said that earlier. But I'm hoping after today's workshop, I will learn a couple things. I will definitely refer back to these slides and try it out on my own. But before we move on to our Q&A section, I just had a quick announcement. We wanted to let you guys know that we will be holding another workshop next week on January 15th. And this will be a choreo workshop, and it will be at the same time, 3 p.m. PST and 6 p.m. EST. So let all your team members know, and definitely would love to see you there. And we will be posting more information on our socials. And Samita did send a survey in the chat earlier, just trying to get some feedback and let us know how we did. But yeah, now the floor is open to questions. You can unmute yourself and ask any questions or send them in the chat and we'll have our panelists answer.
I don't know how to lip roll. Someone else do?
I do a little bit. CJ, anything?
If you do it, maybe I'll know if I can do it or not. I don't know.
Well, okay, I'm still
For
very,
being
very
honest.
bad at lip rolls. But, ooh, I think Akar's saying you can do it. But, okay, my lip rolls it's just like,
Oh,
and then like a lip bass is sucking in while you do that too. It's like, it's still bad, very rusty, but yeah, it's fun. I learned just there's a D'Lo, he's a beatboxer, an Australian beatboxer. He has a really good tutorial on how to do lip rolls on YouTube. So I learned from that.
hey, Ishan, could you do me a favor and just DM me that one? Because that's actually the sound I've been trying to get for like 2 years now. I'm not even kidding.
Send that to me too.
No, for real. I really want to learn that one.
Yeah, I'll find it right now.
We have some volunteers in the chat. We have Vivek and Akar. If you guys want to,
Go for it,
No.
guys.
Yeah,
Go
I can.
for it.
Can you hear me?
yes,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
can.
Yeah, I can do like a little bit.
A little bit.
Just a little bit, just a little something. Just a little.
Man's got jokes.
Yeah.
Go like this, right? From Napalm.
Yeah, I got the inspiration from Napalm.
Yeah,
Definitely.
so good, so good.
That's
amazing.
so sick. That's so sick. The trumpet sounds. I feel like I just put my lips together and I go. And when I was in high school, I would do something with my hand, which you can't do with a microphone, but like I would like put my index finger like that and just go. And then put my thumb right in front of it. Anyway, that's a two-handed affair, so it's kind of hard to do in the beatboxing.
At one point, I could do the intro to Shakira's. You know that one with the trumpet thing. Yeah, I can't do it.
So you can do it right now, is what I'm hearing.
No, I wish I could. I really desperately want to because that is so lit. But that's definitely something I'd pick up. I think somebody else said something in the chat about asking how you beatbox to slow or romantic
Yeah,
songs.
I was just about to say.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I love a good slow romantic song. I'm an Ed Sheeran fan, and I just, I'm a sap. Sam Smith, all of it. So, definitely the time signature, usually 6/8 for the ballad stuff. Like, so if it is, then it's the classic. You just and it's very very like you have the hits, you have the accents, but it's not too invasive, right? And it is very smooth. Definitely love that beat for sure.
Yeah, I like have a playlist of slow songs, or I have a playlist of like slow sad songs, the mood, and that is like kind of what I studied. It's not all 6/8. There's some 4/4 stuff, and just kind of getting a feel for what those songs did and tried to emulate those rhythms.
Yeah, I do the same stuff that they mentioned. Also a classic whoosh is also very nice sometimes. Get some wind in there, dynamics. I feel like it honestly helps so much sometimes. So
I'm a big whoosh guy.
Whoosh for sure. I throw in some like I'm not a drummer. At one point I thought about it, but like the the brushes like where you put them on the cymbal and everything like that. The when you like throwing in some S's in there, just
definitely.
just like make ambiance,
How do you
Yeah,
guys,
yeah, I
how
love
do you
that.
guys do your throat bass?
So
Growl.
Yeah, I learned from just going and then eventually just humming while doing that.
Am I doing mine right? Like,
Whoa.
Are you doing inward?
inward? Is that inward?
inward would be
Okay.
that's inward, the outward. But I'm trying to do the vibration, the vibration bass. All I can do is the. That's it.
Wait,
Yeah.
I think I got it. Hold on.
Oh!
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there you go. I told you I don't.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Vibration.
Vibration, vibration.
Oh, that was sick.
That is
It does hurt. It does hurt
one,
a
the
lot.
hardest sound in the world. Two, it's that feeling right there. And then the pitch came from my lips. So wah 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 wah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something I would definitely when you're learning this sound, just be very mindful of your throat, because what you're doing is you're essentially this sound, if you don't do it properly, you're essentially rubbing your vocal cords together, and over time that'll cause damage. So just make sure for this sound specifically, because you're involving them, you practice it, because I do it two different ways. There's one where I don't involve my my cords really at all, like they don't vibrate together, they don't touch, where it's just like so that's like that's completely nasal, but there's obviously there's a regular throat bass, which and then there's the growl, which is like very much vocal fry, just so you definitely want to make sure that you're aware of when you're feeling pain and not to push it there, right? Because that's a dangerous one, but it's definitely effective. Learned this one where you can essentially use vocal fry to create either a subharmonic or one that is lower than the pitch that you hear. So what Arun was doing was he was like on the brink of performing a subharmonic pitch where you hear the overtone, and that overtone is really cool if you can put that in your throat bass. And then there's the one where you basically you sing a G2, and if you do it properly with vocal fry with the bass in your throat, you can actually make it sound like a G1, and it sounds amazing. Um, Je- Jeff Sutcliffe, if you know him, or not Sutcliffe, what is his last name? Um, I forget what his last name is, but he's an amazing bassist. He's just fucking crazy good. Definitely recommend. I'm gonna put it in the chat if I can.
Also, Vijay, you're asking how you do throat bass while saying words. I think it's just when you add in like, or well, I mean, you guess you're just like growling like, and then you just I don't know, just try saying words, and then eventually it works. This is the worst advice I could ever give you. I'm so sorry, but also I think it helps when you start vocalizing and adding like humming while doing it. I think that helps a ton. Like I don't know, what can I say? I don't know, but
Here, I'll put the name in chat. Just remember. Sorry. I wanted this is really he has this guy has a lot of very good resources on like using your bass, even as a baritone he's a baritone singer naturally, to get those bass sounds into your throat, because that's basically, no pun intended, that's how that's probably where my wheelhouse is taking the bass and then trying to run with it for beatboxing. Like it's really cool things you can do with it. It's kind of a scale. So what you can do is you start on whichever pitch sits most comfortably for your voice, and then try to make that growl, that throat bass. And then once you're there, just try to just ever so slightly change the pitch up and down. Like if you practice sliding in and out, then which you'll be able to form words and things like that, and it'll become more natural, just like that you would when you're singing. Because I mean, you talk at different pitches, but when you're singing, you're controlling it, right? So I would definitely take it step by step there. It helps a lot. Someone else had a question, I
Yeah, I
think.
think there's two questions. One is how do you talk while doing any sort of beatboxing, and then about layering and how to activate multiple muscle groups. And then I think we'll end the Q&A session after these two questions.
Quick thing on layering, a useful thing to keep in mind as you're writing beatboxing is you don't always need to layer. You can use the psychoacoustic effect to take advantage of tricking the audience. I think I might have missed this slide earlier, but basically when you're doing a simple boots and cats, if you switched the first boot with a cymbal crash, the audience will actually hear the kick drum still. They will perceive that you've continued to do the familiar thing, and when you do a new thing, they'll continue to perceive that it happened and also hear what you just did. So you kind of get a little bit of a cheat code with the psychoacoustic effect if you use it right. But actual layering, I cannot do. So anyone else?
no, I can't either. I was about to type that. I'm trying to learn. I think the beatboxer Napalm. There's a bunch of other ones that are really good, but they do an incredible job. I have no clue. I have no clue how to It's insane.
Like I know how to approach it. I can't execute it in a performance setting at all. Like I'm still practicing every single day. That's the thing about being a beatboxer is like you're always gonna want to try to learn a new sound and new techniques, and that like you're gonna be practicing those. So this kind of addresses an earlier question somebody asked: how do you learn new sounds and how do you go about that? Um, so basically you pick a sound, and in this day and age you can literally look up people with different some people call it a different thing, but if you start searching, you'll figure out what people are calling it generally agreed upon. You look that up and find different explanations of people doing the same thing and find what works for you essentially, and just practice that over and over and over again, because it will be months and sometimes years before you even hit the sound for the first time. And then just repeating that, like instead of shower singing, sometimes you'll be shower beatboxing trying to get the
Always.
sound all the time. Not even a joke.
Always.
Just not even a joke. I'm telling you, the lip roll, the subharmonic stuff, like that's all. But basically, to kind of more directly address the layering, what I was saying earlier about the anatomy of your face, like understanding that and how it feels, is really great to be able to understand that your throat, tongue, and nose can do three different things at the same time, and then just try to get that to work. Like I can't even just walk before you can run. Like you're gonna have to slow it down and try to piece it together, and then once you get it together, then you can speed it up. Just make sure that you're not trying to come at it too fast, because
Yeah.
it's gonna be sloppy in that case.
Someone asked about the psychoacoustic effect. I can demonstrate real quick. This is the ending to Karma, which we did a few years ago. Really subtle, but it was that last measure that I did. You just switch the kick for this symbol, and no one will even notice that it changed.
Yeah, because over time, what you're doing is you're establishing pulse for the song, and and then they're gonna feel that pulse, like it's gonna invade their body, and then everybody's gonna be like, "Yo, this is lit," and then you start basically layering yourself. That's kind of how you can compensate for, you know, three of us, like we don't know how to do the layering naturally. Like that's a great way to make the same effects and be very effective while you're doing that.
There's another really cool question on balancing soloist and background. Sorry, can we add this one more quickly? Last question, because I think this is super important as well. I like to follow the arrangement for the VP in terms of the technical side of it and the emotion from the soloist. I get a lot of feel about what needs to change in the VP line from what the soloist is doing, and then as the soloist learns and grows with the song, you see that start to affect the rest of the group. And then you can kind of build from them as well. Like, what are they feeling? Where are they feeling? And then how can I support them more after we've all kind of gotten on the same page about like, this is where the soloist is coming from. This is where I've started with the VP. And now I can build up some of that support for the background. Simultaneously, I'm also thinking about interesting parts in the background. So things I want to highlight. For example, going into the bridge Cheyenne, there was a really cool part where the soloist Ryan sings some riff down. I don't know what it is. Like it's on the word love and it goes love, whatever, right? And so he does that, but then two baritones in the background do the same riff as an echo, like pretending to echo him. So what I did is pretended to be an echo. So as they went on their riff, I had a little echo of a hi-hat. And so there's that arranging side of like, look at the arrangement and then also find your feeling from the soloist.
Arun, did you beatbox on Cheyenne?
I've been beatboxing since 2015. So all Nor'easter stuff 2015 to 2020 was me.
Oh my. Dude, Cheyenne like very much got me into beatboxing actually. 100%. I love that arrangement.
Is wow, that is like the highest compliment I could have ever received. My goodness.
Dude, that's an incredible arrangement. And you beatbox really well on that. Holy cow.
Thank you, bro. Let me tell you, I almost died doing that song. So maybe don't go as hard as I did on that, but it's funny because I learned a lot. I think I overexerted myself in a lot of the writing, and looking back as a more mature beatboxer, I look at it and be like, there are parts I could have simplified a little bit. So I love that song, and I think I'd love to do it again just because there's so many new things that you'll see as a vocal percussionist as you get older. You'll like appreciate it from a new point of view. But thank you, that means a lot.
All right, so that will be the end of our Q&A session. On behalf of ASA, we are so grateful and thankful for your guys' presence today. The panelists, like you guys were amazing, the energy and everything. So we're really happy to have you guys today. Hopefully we can have another session and you guys can learn a lot more from our panelists. But Arun, can you go to the next slide? So this is, these are the contacts for our panelists. Go ahead and take a picture of this. We will also be sending out, we'll be posting the deck on our website if you want to refer back to it at any point. So feel free to reach out to our panelists if you have any questions at all. And then the next slide has our socials. So make sure you follow us, and we'll be posting about any future workshops or any other events that we will be having. But yeah, thank you all for being here, and yeah, that's the end of the workshop.
Thanks for coming, y'all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. This has been awesome. Love
Yeah.
this.
Had a great time. Glad we recorded it. It's gonna
Yeah.
be like
For sure.
useful information.
Oh my God, that was insane, guys.